Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? It's October 15th, halfway through this crazy month of October. Tonight on IncrediChat, welcome to IncrediChat. And tonight on IncrediChat, we're very excited because we have a pretty cool guest star tonight. Those of you who love classic TV, classic comedy, tonight we're really lucky and fortunate to have somebody who worked with some of the greats in that business. We're going to welcome to our show tonight Juul Haalmeyer from Sctv, and he's done a lot of other cool projects. So welcome to the show, Juul.
Hi, thanks, Mike. Hey. Happy to be here.
Listen, I'm excited. I've been talking to a lot of people about this already. And it's really going to be a lot of fun tonight, I think. So before we get into Sctv, because I know there's going to be like a ton of stories and even questions. We already have folks watching now here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a costume designer, and you started in the late 60s. You're up in Toronto.
Yep.
Tell us, how did you get into that, and how eventually did that get you to Sctv?
Well, I had originally wanted to become an opera singer when I came to Toronto, but nobody wanted to look at any of my tapes. So I applied for every job in the paper that didn't require a university degree. And the first one was Halimeyer costumes. And the guy that was hiring was from Holland.
To Sctv.
And which is where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the job.
Oh, you're from Holland?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
And one thing led to another. Bob Mackey came in to do the Sonny and Cher pilot at Halimeyer. And I said to Bob and Rhett Turner, who were doing the pilot, I said, could I come out at the studio at night and see how a TV show is made and on the weekend? So I did. And I thought, God, this is great. This is exciting. I like this. Mm-hmm. I could do it. It's not brain surgery, I said to myself. And there was a sign posted that they were looking for an in-house costume designer, wardrobe person. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, to heck with this in-house stuff. I'm going to apply. Mm-hmm. So I applied for it with a totally false resume that I'd been to Parsons School of Design, and they called me back 3 days later and they said, this is all bullshit. And, but come in and see us. So I did, and they were howling. They said, how did you have the audacity to do this? We like your chutzpah though, so we'll give you the job. So I became in-house costume designer and wardrobe. Okay. And they said, you're going to have to sweep the floor in the carpentry shop until something comes along. Mm-hmm. And then all the local shows I got to do. And out of that came a Hallmark Hall of Fame, for which I got an Emmy nomination. And all of a sudden I was considered legit, even though I still didn't know what I was doing. Mm-hmm. But I thought, it's not that hard. Figure out how to use a sewing machine, figure out how to draw, and you'll get through this.
Gotcha. Now, let me just ask. So, so you mentioned you came from Holland. You were born in Holland. When did you come over to North America, Canada?
We immigrated to Bakersfield in 1956.
Oh, all right.
And then I lived in there and in Wairika, Northern California, okay, and in Eugene, Oregon.
Oh, wow. So you kind of have really traveled around then.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my father had always wanted to immigrate to PEI, mm-hmm, but he lied on his immigration form, saying he was a potato farmer in Holland. So that went away.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. That's so funny. So now this experience, so you're working on a bunch of shows up there. How did you find, or how did they find a Second City? Or
well, it started with the David Steinberg show.
Okay.
On which John, Marty, and David were kind of regular characters there. Mm-hmm. So that's where I first met them. And I think that was 1973.
Oh, wow. So you were with all those guys even before SCP?
When they were babies, yeah.
Oh, my God. Young John Candy and them.
Yeah. Wow. I think that's where he did Mr. Mambo first.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's where I made Mr. Mambo the first time. Yeah.
That's hilarious. So you met them there. You're working on this show, and then you and I were talking a little bit prior to the show. The first season of Sctv, when it was still Network 90, came about. So share with everybody what happened on that.
Well, they asked me to come in and do it, and there were 6 binders on the table, and they said, we're doing all of these sketches, and I looked through them, and it was like doing Ben-Hur every week, you know. And I said, I don't think I can pull that off for the amount of money that you have. There's not nearly enough money here. And so it scared the hell out of me. And I said, I'm not going to take the risk. I'm going to have to turn it down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been the biggest regret of my life to miss that first year and a half, 2 years, whatever it was. So I only did 5 years with them.
Yeah, but I mean, it was really kind of, I guess, towards the second season, like when you did the second year, because I know the way that they aired those shows too, they aired in, I guess, cycles is what they call them, right?
Yeah.
So you joined up with them around the second cycle, and that's kind of when they started to make that transition to NBC more so.
Yeah.
And they got a little bit more recognized. What was that like?
Well, it meant a little more money. When we first went out to Edmonton, I think it was because Dr. Allard wanted the show to be produced in Edmonton. He had a studio there.
Yeah.
And somehow financially that worked out. And we had a little more money. Still not nearly enough, but for where everything was supposed to be, you know, a second-rate TV station, Sctv, it didn't matter that much.
Yeah.
Until things got really big and out of hand with like Vikings and Beekeepers, and John wanted, you know, what did he want first for LaRue? He wanted tanks or something for LaRue, and then it became the crane shot, and it was scary. We were averaging 110 hours a week.
Wow.
In 3-month cycles, so it was a killer. And I would arrive with hundreds of boxes from Toronto. And it was never enough. Thank God I had fabulous buyers on the show.
Yeah. Well, you know, and you sit here talking about it, and it is funny, like you know, the Sctv and the whole world of Melonville, like really was like this, like, you know, falling apart television network, you know. So like you were saying, like they wanted to do like Ben-Hur every week on a very shoestring budget. Like it definitely played into that, because, you know, they, you know, like, but whatever, like you were saying, John, and, you know, certainly like his character, John, they really wanted to do this big flashy thing, or Eugene's character, Bobby Bittman, you know, it like they were the best entertainers in the world. You know, and they, you know, and those characters like took themselves so seriously, and, you know, like they pulled off like the effect, because that's the one thing I've always liked about Sctv is the fact, like, you can watch it, and especially when you watch like the later episodes when they had the 90-minute format, like you're really almost watching like a mini movie, you know, which is like relative. Like we just watched the one last night where the Russian station took over, you know, and yeah, I mean, you know, just like you said, you guys worked these incredible work weeks, and the amount of things that you put into those 90 minutes was like just incredible. Like the sets, the costumes yourself. Like, how did you guys rest?
Well, it was always a sort of a balancing act. You know, we'd come in on a Monday morning at 7, thinking you were doing Bittman or something, and they'd say, no, they finished the Viking boat, so we're doing Vikings and Beekeepers.
Oh my God.
I hadn't even received the paper on that yet, you know? So it was always a challenge.
Yeah. Now let me ask you in regards to this too, is like obviously a show like Saturday Night Live, which is really done before a live audience as opposed to what Sctv was. Like, you know, they churn out Saturday Night Live very quickly within a week's time. Obviously there was a little bit more time to develop the storylines for SCTV. What was that like? Like, I guess maybe the writer's room, or even like when you guys had like your table reads and stuff. What was that like, fleshing out this like mini movie?
Well, it was so special because that cast was so extraordinary and all very good actors, and they all knew what they wanted a particular character to be.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully there was time enough to get several options, or I would just make something, and they agreed to it. We rarely disagreed. I don't think it ever happened on the show, though. I'd say, "Okay, you got to wear this for this character." And they say, "Oh, that's who he is," you know. But they were so special and wonderful, all of them, and knew where they wanted to go with everything.
Yeah.
And it was the small things that got me upset. Like when Catherine was doing Lucille Ball, I got her a dress. She liked it. And she did the makeup and hair. And she's in the studio. And they're about to shoot it. And Catherine says, "Where's her heart? She always has a diamond heart." Well, I didn't know that. And it wasn't scripted at all. And so I went and glue gunned some stupid fabricated heart necklace together.
Oh my God, that's funny. So now let's talk about some of the talent on there. And you said you were even saying prior to SCTV, you got the chance to work with like Martin, like Martin Short, John Candy. So let's start off because everybody loves him. Let's talk a little bit about John Candy. What was your relationship with John? How was that?
Huh?
How was your relationship with John? What was he like as a person?
It was great. John was exactly what people know him. What you see is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
He was quite intensive, but always so happy and lucky and so huggable, and so friendly, with everyone.
Yeah.
We always had a good time with Johnny Boy.
Mm-hmm. Because I know a lot of people say, like you said, he was lovable. I mean, you look at some of the movies that he even did. SCTV was really like the starting point for him. And then once he hit the big screen, like he was just churning out like fantastic movies, one right after the other. And all the characters that he played, over the years, always had that big heart, like, whether it be somebody like an Uncle Buck or Only the Lonely with Maureen O'Hara, how he was with his, the mother and son relationship. You could just see that he brought his true self to all those parts.
Yeah, and the amazing thing about all of them was, coming from that Second City background, you could see them create a character on the spot with the voice and everything else. It just seemed to come out of nowhere. I had so much respect for that because nobody seemed to be inhibited, which I have been all of my life. And I would never trust anything like that. But they would stand in front of a camera and all of a sudden there'd be a new person,
Well, a new person, or I guess you would call a caricature of a person. Like again, in the episode we were watching last night, the Perry Como, was it still alive?
Yeah.
Right, with Eugene as Perry Como, like laying on the ground.
Yeah.
Like how did they get away with some of those parodies?
Well, that was something when I first started was going to be hard because I had done 2 of Perry's specials.
Okay.
At CFTO in Toronto, and then to do a takeoff on him, I thought, oh my God, someone's going to sue me, But when Perry saw it at the Emmy Awards, he loved it.
Oh, so Perry did get to see that.
Yes, he was there when they played it at the Emmys, where they all got their writers' Emmys.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, SCTV, and again, and you mentioned the Emmy Awards, like, to like really diehard comedy fans, a lot of us remember SCTV, and and you mention it to other people, and they're like, oh, what was SCTV? And you mention names, and people are like, oh, okay, but yeah, SCTV, they won several Emmy Awards.
Yeah, for writing They should have had, all of them should have won one, at least one for performance as well, but that never happened.
Yeah, amazing. And you yourself, and you can tell us a little bit about that. You've won some Emmy Awards too.
Yeah, I did. I got nominated in '73 for that Hallmark show, and I lost to Charles Schultz because it was up for outstanding achievement in children's entertainment. So of course he would win. And then I got one for the Naughty and Friends show that we did for PBS in, what was it, 99, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now let's talk a little bit. We mentioned the Perry Como thing. So in the background there, and that was not the first appearance, but let's talk about the Juul Haalmeyer Dancers.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Because anybody who's watching us, and we got quite a few people, and folks, we have a bunch of people here. I'm looking at the live stream. If you have any questions about Sctv, if you have any questions for Juul, please put them in the chat box, and we'll get to those questions. So the Juul Haalmeyer Dancers, and it's funny because you and I were talking about this earlier too. Like there is a fan group for the Juul.
Yes, there. Which floored me. You know, I wasn't ready for something like that. When Catherine did her first Lola, where she was falling apart, and she said, "Juul, you be the backup dancers. Get some guys on the crew, and come up with a routine for this thing." And I had never been allowed to dance before in my life because I was a real bad actor and stiff as a board. I had done musicals, but only because I had a big singing voice. As soon as I finished my song, it was like, turn the lights off and get that asshole off stage. You know, we don't want to see him move. So when I got to do that, it was an absolute hoot. And it was the props man, the lighting man, some of the writers, sometimes Marty or Gene, if they were, whoever was available.
Oh, I saw one with Rick. He was in one of them.
Yeah, Rick was in it. Oh God, yes.
But I mean, obviously, like you said, and I guess honestly, even for some of like these other, like, I mean, you had some stage background, but like you're saying, like they just grabbed people from the crew to do this. What was that like? I mean, here, you know, like, oh, I'm a writer, I'm a grip, and it's like, okay, cool. You're gonna come be on camera, which you're not comfortable doing this crazy dance that's not really choreographed, and oftentimes in like really tight clothing. How was it like getting those people in that? We're like, oh no, not me.
Oh no, they all loved the show so much and would have done anything for the show. Their only worry was what they were going to have to wear.
Well, because and which bit was it? I was watching the one with Andrea and Catherine, where you guys were in those like white things with like the like
fringe, mylar fringe, yeah.
What the heck? And I think in the documentary you're even mentioning like you couldn't find them in men's sizes, so you guys all had to wear women's sizes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then the undergarments were the biggest problem because we couldn't get those in Edmonton.
Oh my God!
And they were so embarrassed to wear them half the time. They'd take off their clothes, and I'd go pick up their stuff in the dressing room, and they would have put their dance belts in the garbage.
Oh my gosh!
And I said, no, I'm not flying those in from New York again.
Yeah, no, I mean, but you know, this like one-off goof like really turned into something else, because I mean, the dance troupe appeared, you know, with the exception of really you, obviously because of the name, but you guys appeared in a handful of episodes, you know, and then certainly you, Juul Haalmeyer, you know, played the Juul Haalmeyer on Sctv. And you know, earlier we were sitting here talking too, how you know, people say, oh, you were an actor on Sctv, and like, I mean, your character, like, of of yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term. I mean, like, you think of the characters on there. I mean, Juul Haalmeyer and Juul Haalmeyer Dancers are right up there with, you know, Earl Cannonbear and Ed Grimley and all of them.
Isn't that sad though? You know, that I think I was always viewed as a joke by so many people that I fit the slot perfectly.
I don't think that. I mean, it just, you know what? I don't want to say the bad. I guess they were a bad dance troupe, right? But
Pretty awful.
yeah, and their little signature move at the end.
Eugene came up with that move.
Oh, that was Eugene. How did
off? Yeah.
So what? What was? That's so funny. So we have some comments coming in here.
Oh.
So I'm just gonna read these. But well, before we get to the questions, how did Eugene come up with that move? Like, because that was how you guys ended everything.
Because I didn't, not being a choreographer or a dancer, I had no idea, and they had done dancers before on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I have to give credit to the people that pulled that off in the first year. So whatever I did sort of just embellished on what had happened before, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
or made it, put my own stamp on it. But yeah, I had, the only time I had a real problem was we had just done Divine on Ice.
Oh my God.
In 40 below weather. And then later that night, I think it was 2 o'clock in the morning, we had to do Andrea and the props man, Christopher, I'm not drawing a blank on his name, Chris anyway. We had to do that silly number with Andrea Martin for the Christmas show.
The one where you like are doing like that crazy like pose.
Yeah. I looked like a shit catcher or something. And that I couldn't move. My brain was totally frozen. And thank God Chris had been a dancer before he got into TV. And he was an enormous help on that one. But we were all dead.
And I mean, you guys were out there really, and like you said, 40 below. Like, gosh, and
40 below. And out there, the weather could change, you know, in a couple of hours. So none of us had thermal underwear on.
Oh
and John, we brought brandy for to keep him warm.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then he used the styrofoam boobs I made as bongos in that number.
Oh my God. That's so funny.
They were so versatile. They could use anything that you threw at them. They would use it for the character. It was amazing.
Now, how long were you guys for the shoot outside? How long were you guys out there in these tights?
About 5 or 6 hours, I think.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow, I can see why John needed the brandy. Well, you know, once again, I'm going to a couple of questions here. Eric Levitt wants to he just says hi from California, and I know we talked about this a little bit, but we can go back to it. He just wanted to know what was it like working with John, and did you have good chemistry on the set? And I guess that could lead into this too, because like you shared with me, and I don't think many people knew that I mean, I'm gonna assume you probably did have good chemistry with John because you served as an assistant on Cool Runnings. So
well, I did his big city comedy show as well.
Okay.
A series that was supposed to be a star vehicle for John that the Osmonds produced.
Okay.
But there was some kind of a conflict there, and he didn't get his way. They didn't want to do it the way that he wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a wonderful show to work on with another terrific Second City alumni cast.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was so special and fabulous. Yeah.
And we have Grand Slam Comedy, and this is Eddie. He just says SCTV on the air, and he's like, I heard a rumor you and Edith Prickley were an item. I would say more Lola than anything.
Yeah.
Lola and Juul.
She wanted to bear all my children.
Who wanted to bury your children?
Lola.
So now let me ask you. I mean, you were with this great amount of talent. Did you have a favorite character that any of them portrayed? Like, who are some of your favorites on there? Who did you like watching?
I don't really have one, you know. I love them all. Number one, as people, and then the character they portrayed. And I considered all of the characters, whether they were scumbags or
Some more.
entertainers. Yeah, I loved them all, you know, because they all were so real to me, you know.
Well, let me ask you this question, and it's funny that you say scumbags because and again going back to John, right?
Yeah.
So like when he put that coat on, like was he John or was he Johnny LaRue?
He was LaRue.
He was. Oh, really?
Oh yeah, and don't you forget it.
and you know, and another kind of shady character too. I wonder was Joe Flaherty when he was in that wheelchair as Guy Caballero. He was guy was in the room and that was it, right?
That was it. Yeah, yeah, because they were all real actors to the core. You know, I had so much respect and appreciation for all of their talent. It was amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, and again, just like going back for folks who are just joining us now, because we have people like popping into this room, which is great. And I think a lot of them are from the Dancers fan club, which is great, and the Sctv fan club. And again, keep questions coming in, folks. You know, like just again, and you and I were talking about this prior to going on. Just the amount of talent that came from there. I mean, like, you know, you said John and so many of them that went on to mainstream. John, I mean, you and I were talking about Eugene and Catherine with Schitt's Creek, like, geez, you know, amazing stuff. Obviously Martin Short, Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas, like just top comedians, and Andrea Martin, and like, you know, like they were really like the movie stars. I mean, and still many of them are still doing stuff today, but they were like the true movie, the real true movie stars of the 80s and the late 70s. You know, you'll never see another group of comedians like that again.
Well, I had a really cute conversation with Rick at the reunion special for Netflix.
Gotcha.
And after the show, because he gave a wonderful shout out to me during the show, which he didn't have to do. And I said, Rick, I have to make a confession to you. When you first came on the show, you were the first person I'd ever worked with that didn't trust me. And he said, what do you mean? What do you mean? And it wasn't until several weeks had passed when he was doing Jerry Todd. And
I love Jerry Todd.
Yeah. And he sort of didn't know what he was supposed to look like. And I had gotten him several things. And then after that, it was easy home after that with everything. Never doubted me again.
And you know, and you mentioned Rick too, and I believe he was the only one that was not part of the Second City Troupe too that came in.
Right. He and Dave were friends at McMaster University. Yeah.
So Dave brought him in, and I mean, and so you're sitting here talking about, and certainly I want to ask you about those two because SCTV gave them a whole new life too. But like you're mentioning about the costumes, so like you mentioned Jerry Todd. So when they would come up with a character, what was the process like in regards to the look and the outfits that this character wore? How did you guys collaborate to make that happen?
Well, if we were lucky enough, we were able to discuss which way they wanted to go. And I was able to come up with a couple of options, but often we didn't have that time frame to do that in. So it was always very frightening for me because if you're out in the middle of nowhere and somebody says, no, that's not who he is at all or who she is at all, I don't have anything in my back pocket, you know. Although we had a big stock to pull from, and I brought everything I could from Toronto of my stock.
Gotcha. And now, and in regards to like Rick and Dave, I mean, probably the two biggest breakout characters from SCTV were the McKenzie brothers, 100%.
Yes,
they had the movie, And I know they at some point they were supposed to be doing a sequel, and unfortunately that did not happen.
Right.
But I mean, everybody knows the McKenzie brothers. Did you help them design their look too? Because I understand that was quite
that is quite a lovely story there. We were doing one of those big movie takes offs or something, and the Canadian network decided they needed more Canadian content, and they said to me, came to me in the morning and like at 11 o'clock, and they said, we're going to be shooting these two characters at one, and
it's in the middle of the night.
Huh?
This is in the middle of the night?
No, in the middle of the day.
Middle of the day, okay.
Yeah. So I said, there's no way I can go out shopping and go downtown to find stuff for these characters right now. And the loveliest thing happened. The crew that were from Edmonton at the time, they all went home on their lunch break and brought me all their winter gear to pull from to create Bob and Doug. Wow. And we just, they pulled stuff, I pulled stuff, and whatever we ended up with is what became the Bob and Doug character. But without the crew, I would have had nothing for them.
Gotcha. And that really was like, it was almost like a goof that they happened by circumstance.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an absolute fluke, but it worked perfectly for them. Again, because it was so real. You know, had it been new store-bought stuff, I would have had to break it down first.
Yeah, because like you said, it was born, and if it fit the characters like these two crazy brothers, like
yeah.
Now, did you guys, was that all beer laying around the set that you guys had left over?
Yeah, usually. I think they had a contra deal with Labatt's or something. Yeah.
Nice. All right, so we have a couple more questions here. From Eddie, he says, in his honest opinion, Harold Ramis was brilliant. Gone way too soon. Do you have any stories about Harold Ramis that you could share?
I only briefly got to work with Harold because I missed the first year on a Martin Short special we did later, and he was absolutely lovely, just iconically as nice and brilliant as they all were. And I wish I would have known him for a much longer period of time. Great man.
Now, you know, you mentioned that you worked with him on Martin Short's show. So tell us a little bit about Martin Short, because, I mean, just another comedic genius. And I mean, he is always on, singing, dancing, climbing on things, what have you. Like,
well, the best thing about Marty that I treasure more than anything else is that he has absolutely no inhibitions whatsoever in public or in a character or in a sketch. He is who he is, Marty, an absolutely brilliant, delightful person, you know. And that's what made them all remarkable, too, because they were all so different and unique in their own way. You know, Eugene is the master of subtlety. And yet can be so fabulously devious in a backhanded way, you know, which comes through in some of the characters he does as well.
Yeah.
But delicious to observe.
Yeah. And you know, the one thing I really appreciate about Eugene is you know, like that, like he was not one of the main cast at the time in those days. Like he did Armed and Dangerous with John, and he was in bits and pieces of other movies. Club Paradise, I'm thinking, is another one that a bunch of them were in. I mean, that had a nice like group from Sctv in it, that film. But
have you seen Cannonball Girls with him and Andrea Martin?
I did not see that one. I did not see that one. I'm assuming that's one to watch.
I'm sure it's something that they don't want even brought up, but it's so special that they even did it. You know, I love that.
But the one thing I have to say in regards to Eugene, honestly, is the fact that his popularity, and especially with younger people, really saw a resurgence after he did the American Pie movie. Like once when that movie came out, like all of a sudden he was everywhere, and like young people, just like fell in love with him, and I mean that carries through now. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, oh, Eugene Levy's in this, and like other people, and this is like whatever 20 years ago when that came out. People are like, who's Eugene Levy? And I'm like, how do you not know who Eugene Levy is?
Yeah.
So no, I think that's great. We have a couple other comments here from Brian Bella. So, and we'll go to this now too. Well, he says he loves your work with Lola Heatherton. And I guess, and you could talk a little bit about this. He wants to know, and like I said, I guess you have a lot of fans watching this tonight. Are you aware, and I know the answer to this one, are you aware of the Juul Haalmeyer Dancers fan club on Facebook?
Well, I found out about it in a very strange way. When I first got a computer, I'm a total technical moron, as you know, or I found out now. And a friend of mine gave me a computer, and when we turned it on, the first thing that came up when he punched in my name, was the fan club, and I think it had 14 members.
Oh my God.
And I said, what the heck is that? A fan club in Iceland, of all places.
In Iceland?
Yeah. The gentleman that started it became a friend of mine, and he was going to school in Winnipeg and was a fan of the show. And he married a woman that was his professor there. And she was from Iceland. He was taking Icelandic studies, and they moved back to Iceland. So that's where he started that. Yeah.
That's so funny. And I mean, I didn't take a look. I'll take a look in a minute, but I don't know how many fans there are now. Somebody wants to know, Juul, can you help me book Bobby Bittman for 2021 show?
Well, that was the funny thing about the dancers too. People thought that we were real.
Really?
I would get telephone requests and internet requests if we would ever be in their city on tour. And I thought it was a joke, but it wasn't.
to this day, you still are getting these.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh,
I guaranteed them you wouldn't want to see an hour of us,
That's so funny. Now going back to that, and I mean, I'm sure this is the person you had the most, probably some of the chemistry with. Eric wants to know in regards to Catherine O'Hara on Sctv, and I mean, you did so many of these dance bits with her. Do you have any funny sketches or memories with Catherine that you have?
Well, I certainly do. The most frightening one was when we were supposedly having an affair, and I did an opening sequence to a sketch with Catherine and I in fur coats, and then I can't remember after what it was, but I had to come back into her supposed apartment as Lola, where she was having another breakdown, and she yells at me, "What do you want?" Like that. And it was such a method acting thing. It scared the hell out of me. I thought, and we had to do it several times, and I thought, oh my God, that was the scariest thing I ever had to do with Catherine. Because I'm not an actor.
Yeah. Well, and you're talking about Lola's breakdowns. So Brian wrote here, he loves how you guys backed out of those awkward moments, like her breakdowns.
Right.
which is great. So now you mentioned earlier the reunion for Netflix. Now I'm surprised that, because they did that about 2 years ago, right? 2 or 3 years ago, that reunion.
Yeah, 2 years ago last May.
And that was Scorsese did that, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. You haven't heard, because that's not on, at least not here in the States. I haven't seen that on Netflix yet. I haven't even heard when.
No, it hasn't aired yet. I think Scorsese has been too busy with his other projects or something. I have no idea why it hasn't aired.
Now, because that's what I was going to ask you. Outside of that reunion that you guys did for Netflix, do you generally keep in contact with a lot of the members of the SCTV cast?
No, we don't. I mean, everybody has to go their own way. Everybody has their own life. We used to see some of them at the Gilda Radner benefit that's held here every year. It's always something.
Yeah.
And they would sometimes do their characters, and the makeup, hair, and wardrobe people from the show would come out and do those shows with them, which was always a real treat just to
Gotcha.
see them again, you know.
Oh, someone. Well, and I guess we kind of. I don't know if we really went into this. Brian wanted to know, because we talked about how the dancers started, but because you did some bit parts in there too. How did you go from behind the scenes to being on screen? Like,
Well, sometimes it often happened when a special business extra didn't show up and somebody's ass had to be blown off or something. Get that guy in wardrobe, you know, get Juul out of there. So I played a couple of different characters, and then they asked me to do the singer on Days of the Week wedding, and they waxed out my eyebrows and gave me a cheap red wig, and I sang on that episode.
Oh, wow.
But most people never knew it was me because I was so disfigured.
That's
So
so.
it was great fun.
And I do want to just share with you. You said 14, so I just clicked on it now. You have 2.2 thousand members of the Juul Haalmeyer Dancers fan club. Over 2,000.
Really? Wow.
2,000. So I mean, listen, you know, you had an impact on on everybody. So so you said you were with SCTV for what, 4 years? Or
Yeah, 4 or 5 years I did.
4 or 5 years. So when SCTV ended, what did you move on to doing after that? And since?
I went off, well, I did lots of shows in between, but I did a Canadian sketch comedy show called Codco.
Okay.
And in Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. And it was the same parody department that had done SCTV that was already out there on that show. So again, I joined them late, had an absolutely wonderful time with, again, an incredible cast that was so amazing, but we weren't allowed any overtime on that show. So it was a different kind of stress, because if they didn't get the sketch that they had written taped before 6 o'clock, it didn't make it into that episode that week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice. We have another SCTV question here.
Yeah.
And you know what, this is actually a good question too, because again, talking about like the quality of the SCTV network, you know. So you had Earl Cannonbear and Floyd Robertson, right?
Right.
And so even you know, Floyd got easily flustered, but he had his other job, and his other job was Count Floyd.
Right.
So in regards to creating that character, what was that like? And that leads into this question too about Joe Flaherty and his characters. They want to know, do you have any good stories about Joe?
Oh, Joe was the silent one for the most part. Not in the writing room, I don't think, but yeah, Joe again was a very great guy and wonderful to work with. And he was unique in his own way. And never to, the characters that Joe did on the show had all been established before I got there. So I never had to create that much for Joe unless it was something in a new script. You know, so, and Joe was as easy as pie. He went along with whatever you came up with.
Actually, and you know, like I look at SCTV and thinking about like Joe, like, I mean, obviously Guy Caballero is really like the figurehead of the show. Like I always looked at Joe as like I don't want to say the main star, but like if you're looking at the main character of SCTV, I would say Guy Caballero is that like main character. Followed then by like Johnny and Edith and stuff like that. Yeah. So
the main thing was the core was a team, you know, and then it was always an interesting thing to observe between the men and the women, because as a cast, there was a rivalry there. I think that was never, we weren't privy to that at all, but you could feel it every once in a while. So you got the feeling that sometimes Andrea and Catherine had to fight for their skits to get in. I don't know. I never could figure out what it was, and I might probably don't have any right to even speak about it, but you could feel it there sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and
they always resolved it within themselves, so it was never a problem for us.
Yeah, I mean, and for them, oh, and that just made me think of a really interesting question too. But yeah, no, like for them being the two women, like they really held their own on that show just because they were the main. I mean, obviously of the main cast, they portrayed all the women in the bits. One question, and it's funny just watching some of these episodes and remembering them. There were things, and again, much different times that we were in then. But you know, Andrea played Mother Teresa. You know, and then we were watching the other night the one where Dave is I forget the character's name, but he was the Japanese host with John as like the Godzilla like monster.
Right. Like, oh my God.
like and my God is right, because you know, seeing some of those things there, and it's like in here in 2020, I don't know how those would fly.
Oh yeah. couldn't do that anymore. But the interesting thing is, from all of the fans that have dropped by my shop over the years, I am completely astounded by all of them, because when the shows aired, I never saw them. We didn't have time to see them.
Gotcha.
And they know every line of dialogue that's been said by every character in any sketch from any season.
Wow.
And they'll recreate the whole sketch in my shop, you know.
And Jason just added here the Tim Ishimuni show.
Tim Ishimuni, yeah.
That's who Dave was playing there. So, but yeah, like, and again, a much different time of television and entertainment than we are currently in, you know.
And I probably would have been lashed for some of the things that I did too, that you couldn't get away with nowadays, you know. Some people are still angry at me for putting Catherine's Lola Mother Teresa in sequence.
Oh yes. Linya Tang.
Yeah. Tang, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, that's right. I saw that, and you know, she was a Mother Teresa, and she's curing that sick child, and she's like in her whole thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, this child is sick.
Yeah.
Hilarious. I mean, but again, just like such a funny thing. Just that whole world, like I would love to spend a day in Melonville just to see what
yeah.
characters. Sammy Maudlin, oh my God. You know. But now you mentioned you have a shop, so tell us a little bit about what you do in your shop now. Like what are you doing now in 2020?
Well, now with COVID, we haven't been able to go in since March.
Gotcha.
But I used to pull a lot of the shows together from there, and my mother had always worked with me. She made a lot of the stuff.
Oh, wow.
She traveled with me and worked on most of the shows I did as well. And funny things would happen there. Like, I used to be listed in the yellow pages under homemade charts.
Okay.
And I get a call one day out of the blue, and the man identifies himself as Ian Anderson. And I had no idea who that was. And he said, yeah, we're opening at Maple Leaf Gardens tomorrow night, and I don't like my wardrobe. And it was Jethro Tull.
Oh, wow.
And I said, how did you find me? And he said, I liked your name in the phone book, Homemade Charts. So I went into his limo, and we discussed. I ended up going on the road with them
Mhm.
because he was thrilled with the outfit that Luigi at Halimeyer made for me within 24 hours.
Mm.
And he wanted me to redesign the Stormwatch tour.
Mm.
So, yeah, we've had some fun experiences there.
Now, you said fans have come into your shop. I mean, obviously, when we're in a pre-COVID world, and hopefully that will clear up one day. Like, do they just reach out? Like, how do they arrange those tours? I'm sure you don't like advertise, hey, come and get a tour of my shop.
No, everybody's always been very polite and nice about it.
Mm-hmm.
But they've literally come from all over America.
Really?
Not to see me, but to see a show here,
Mm-hmm.
an arena show or something, and then realize that, remember that I'm from there, and I
Mm-hmm.
get a nice call or I get a nice email. Would you mind if we came down and said hello? And it's been lovely all these years.
Right. And you were saying that you have a lot of the props and costumes from Sctv there too, right?
Not anymore. I've had to bring them all home
Okay.
because the building I'm in has been sold, and we have to get out of there.
Gotcha.
So I have them in my bedroom.
Oh my gosh! So wait, what are some of the costumes and props that you still have?
Well, a lot of them weren't mine, so I don't have those. But LaRue, I paid to have made.
Mm-hmm.
So I have LaRue, and they had to do some charity events, so I had to keep some of the major characters together
Mm-hmm.
in case that would ever come up, which
Gotcha.
it did in the beginning.
Yeah.
I have LaRue, I have Divine, I have
Oh wow.
Peter Pan, Mr. Mambo. They were make to rent costumes with Halimeyer,
Mm-hmm.
and Halimeyer gave those all to me a couple of years ago. And some of the other characters were from my stock. They belonged to me, so I could take those home. And I
Mm-hmm.
have some of Catherine's Lola things.
Oh my gosh.
Edith Brickley was an outfit that was thrown together when Andrea was working at the fire hall, and she created this new character for the stage show.
Uh-huh.
And Catherine O'Hara's mother's leopard skin jacket became Edith Brickley. And Andrea had walked over to the Goodwill that was around the corner and found the hat and the glasses.
Oh my gosh! Because that's definitely a memorable costume too.
Yeah, and it became iconic.
Yeah.
And we had to refurbish it once in a while, but that was hers. You know, she created that character all by herself from the Goodwill and Catherine's mom.
Jason wants to know, do you have any of Bittman's leisure suits?
Huh?
Jason wants to know, do you have any of Bittman's leisure suits?
Yes, I have some of those.
Ah.
And we reached a couple of years ago for what is it called? Well, anyway, for a show he was doing, I remade him in PVC plastic.
Oh my God!
Because I thought there's no other way to go, but just make him in plastic.
That's great.
Yeah, and just for laughs, I made that for. He was hosting Just for Laughs.
The Showtime thing, right? The Showtime special.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen that clip, and I mean, listen, for anybody watching it, I'm sure everybody who knows that who knows SCTV and is a fan of Jules and all that stuff, you can go on YouTube and see all these bits. I mean, unfortunately, like they don't show SCTV anymore. Like on any.
No, I hope that maybe there's some kind of a deal that's been made with Netflix that they might bring it back.
Yeah.
Especially with the popularity of Schitt's Creek and the success of that. And the fans are humongous that are from all over the world, because I don't know how many countries it's sold to.
Yeah.
But I get comments from people in Japan and Germany and England. It's quite amazing.
Wow. Now let me ask, with that reunion show that they did, so was it more of a so because when we do see it, was it more of a retrospective, or did anybody get into character?
No, it was just their comments on the making of the show,
and
it was quite wonderful. Yeah, it was nice.
Really, I think a lot of people would love, like, and you just mentioned there at Netflix, maybe being able to show some of the older ones when they do this documentary. But like my gosh, I mean, I think a lot of people would just go crazy to see them bring back a whether it be a special or a couple episodes, just like an updated SCTV. Do you think anything that could ever occur if the stars align?
I think Second City could do another series, but you'll never replace SCTV.
Yeah.
And I think, especially after we lost John, I think it's something that nobody really wanted to touch anymore, because it could never, ever be the same.
Yeah.
You know, it becomes like losing your parents and trying to make Christmas the same as it always was. It doesn't work. It's something different.
Yeah, like the one thing I think about, like, again, just like this whole SCTV world, going back to that, like Martin Short did the Ed Grimley cartoon show, and they were all voices in that, anyways, the majority of them, and I always like look at that as an extension of SCTV. I mean, that's where Ed began. I'm sure Ed was around, like, probably when you knew him as a wee one, but
well, Marty invented Ed for the stage company as well.
Yeah.
So Marty came as Ed to me, but when he became different characters in, what was it called? I got to make all kinds of different versions of Ed for various sketches.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah. And I mean, that's obviously one of his most iconic characters.
Yeah.
Like, and people love that. But yeah, I mean, it would be great if Second City did try, and I mean, obviously with a different cast, try and do something like that again. Like, I think there could be a market for that. I mean, but you said the magic would just not, the same magic wouldn't be there. There would be magic, but not the same.
Yeah, it would be totally different. And but fans would probably still expect it to be the same and try to compare the two, which you could never do. It's a different show, you know.
Yeah, and I know, like, Rick and Dave got together and did they did the 2 First special, God, probably like about 10 or so years ago, which I think was aired in Canada. What
was it?
They did this thing called the 2 First special, which was Bob and Doug, and they did this probably about 10, 12 years ago. And
yeah, that was for CBC, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, once in a while, I mean, who knows, right?
Who knows? Yeah. Well, there were so many other shows too. What was it? We did The Incredible Time Travels of Henry Osgood. Have you seen that one?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen that one.
They were all in that one. I was in that one, come to think of it.
But yeah, there's such a wealth of all this stuff out there, and like I mean, like we said, you have over 2,000 fans in the dance club.
Yeah.
which is great. So yeah, we're coming close to our 9:30 time, our hour, which, I mean, we've seen
that. Wow, that's an hour already.
Yeah, what time flies when you're having fun. Like, it's good topic, good guests. I mean, my gosh, like, this is the best.
Oh.
But
thank you so much. I'm so honored that you would even ask me to do it.
No,
it was fun.
Yeah, and I mean, I want everybody. It's going down there on the bottom now. Outside of, who cares about IncrediCon? You guys know where to find me. But coming along the screen here in a moment, it says you can follow Juul, and you can go on to Facebook and find Juul, Facebook.com/Juul Haalmeyer Designs. And that's how they can reach out. People can reach out to you, and check out some of the other things that you're doing.
Sure.
So, yes.
Well, thank you so much for this. I really enjoyed it.
No, like, honestly, this was a pleasure and an honor to have you on there. And I mean, you can see we've had a bunch of people commenting and popping in tonight too.
Wow.
People love you. People love you. I saved this for Jason wrote this. I'm gonna put this up on the screen. I love you, Juul Haalmeyer. I want to bear.
I've had that one on the streetcar here.
Let me just quickly ask you: do people notice you out on the street?
Well, after 40 years, you would think they wouldn't anymore.
Uh-huh.
And I've had 4 cancers in the last 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And so I feel I look a lot different. But for fans, whether you have a mustache on or not, or whatever, they know who you are.
Yeah.
The real deep-hearted fans.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I mean, and honestly, like you said too, like, you know, you whether mustache or not, but I mean, your name is just, you know, like how many Juul Haalmeyers are there?
Yeah. Now I'm sure June Taylor is turning over in her grave.
But yeah, once again, thank you. And, you know, thank you, Jason. You know, thank you for that comment. Eddie at Grand Slam Comedy says, thank you, Juul. Be well. So, you know, once again, thank you again, everybody who watched us tonight. And Juul, thank you so much. And we'll go backstage in a second. Everybody watching, tune in next week. We have a comic book artist that's going to be joining us. And that'll be 8:30 next Thursday on IncrediChat. And then for everybody watching too, if you're in the New York area, we have our IncrediCon outdoor event coming up October 24th. So come and check that out. So we will see you all next week. Thank you again. Go and follow Juul on Facebook. Follow IncrediCon on Facebook and Instagram as well. Good night.